Mark, let me start with you. What does this story say about college football?
I think it's an issue that the NCAA and the NFL certainly need to get a handle on. We've seen since the beginning of the season and back to the preseason, these runners who are representing agents continue to be a growing problem in the sport. And, you know, until the NCAA steps up and really hammers somebody, or the NFL rather, an agent, I think it's going to continue to be a growing problem.
Paul, what do you think it says about college football?
Well, I think we all know college football is a cesspool, but Steve, I think in this case we really have to figure out what's going on here. And a lot of people down where I am in Alabama are really angry, and they're angry at the messengers. Why now, and where is this story coming from? And until we know all those answers, and Mark may know a lot more than I do, there's going to be a lot of very dissatisfied fans in this part of the world.
Bomani, we'll get to you, but Mark, why? Why now? Where is this story coming from?
Well, it's coming. It came out now, Steve. I don't know why information didn't come out until now. I know that Mississippi State, according to John Bond, had turned over some information to the Southeastern Conference as early as January of this year. Greg Sankey, Associate Commissioner for Compliance with the Southeastern Conference, told us yesterday that the initial information wasn't credible, and then they were given new information in July, and they turned it over to the NCAA, which is protocol for the SEC. And then I met with Cecil Newton and his wife Jackie in Atlanta yesterday. They told me they got a letter from the NCAA about a month ago asking them for financial documents, including personal bank statements and financial records for their church. And they just got it a month ago. So it's an ongoing investigation. Why the Southeastern Conference didn't do more with it back in January when it first came to light, I don't know. Why it took the NCAA from July until now to get serious about investigating the issue, I don't know. If you followed college football this year, the NCAA has been pretty busy. But it seems to me that Cam Newton would be at the forefront.
Bomani, what do you think this story says about college football?
Well, the money game is a little bit deeper than I think a lot of casual observers had thought. I mean, this is more of, harkens back to like 1980s Wild Wild West Southwest Conference kind of stuff, where you can even go back to Albert Means even sooner. And we hear people talk about agents, and we had it come up where an agent gives some gift here and gives a gift there. But what we're talking about now with Newton is so layered and so deep and so much money, and we don't even know exactly what happened. It just tells me that the older days of the 70s and 1980s of how players were sent back and forth is probably not as far away as we'd like to say.
Paul, what do you think?
Well, I don't think this is SMU. I think that's when you had boosters laying cash on people. I think this case is a little more complex, and I don't know if it's even true right now. But if money did change hands, we're talking about a kid coming from junior college. And let's not forget, Cameron Newton was at Florida. He had problems down there and ended up at Blinn Junior College before going to Auburn. And the thing that you have to wonder about here is Cam Newton has told reporters, Mark did a great interview with him a couple of days ago, that he wanted to go to Mississippi State, but in the end his dad thought Auburn was the best place. So you have to look at that one fact to try to figure out where to go from there.
Mark, what does that illuminate about this story?
Well, I think we need to make one thing clear, that we have not reported that Auburn was even given this offer of paying cash for Cam Newton. We don't know if an offer was made or whether Kenny Rogers only made this offer to Mississippi State. The only fact we know is that Kenny Rogers, for whatever reason, called John Bond and said, hey, for $180,000, you can have Cam Newton. We don't know if that offer was made to Auburn. We don't know if any money changed hands with the Newtons. We don't know if Kenny Rogers went out on his own and did this. We don't know what Cam Newton's involvement is in this.
Bomani, in the big picture scheme of things, who or what is to blame for the fact that we are continually talking about this in college football?
I don't know if blame is the right word. I mean, you've got supply, you've got demand, you're going to have a market. I think the only people that haven't seemed to figure out what's going on is the NCAA, and that we have an archaic system that just does not seem to work. And I don't know if you can blame the NCAA in this case, but there's too much money coming from too many places and too many people who are worth the money to somebody else to be surprised when this comes up.
So what can be done about it?
Well, to stop people from, doing something like what is alleged here, I guess the NCAA has an easier case, because this is simply having guys come in. But when you start talking about agents and like handing guys gift, how do you stop that? I don't think you have any way of stopping that. I think a lot of this money that goes back and forth, I don't know how you stop the flow of money when there are people who are willing to give it and people who are willing to take it.
Paul, what do you think should be done?
Well, I think they need to get a handle on the agent story, but in this case, I think it's a little more complex, as I've said a couple of times here. But let's not forget, Cecil Newton made the decision where his son went to school because he was unhappy with what Cam Newton had done at Florida. So I think you have to, this is more about Mr. Newton than I think Auburn University. Unfortunately, I think Auburn has been slammed, and I know Mark was quick to point out Auburn hasn't been accused of anything, but Auburn is getting a bad rap right now, a black eye, and I feel for Cameron Newton. He was a leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy, and right now there are people going online, going on the record saying, I'm not going to vote for Cam Newton because of this, even though we don't know anything. A guy in Florida said that today, a reputable writer at a major newspaper, and I can't figure that out. Why would you not vote for Cameron Newton? Because he right now, he's the best player in college football.